On October 3, 1918, over 500 American soldiers are trapped behind enemy lines. With no food or ammunition, they hold the line as best they can, with over 300 soldiers losing their lives. In an attempt to protect the American soldiers, Allied British troops begin shelling the area with artillery. Unaware, they are actually bombing the trapped American troops. In a desperate need to make contact with their base and stop the bombardments, the Americans send out 3 carrier pigeons in an effort to get a message back to base. 2 pigeons are shot down by a barrage of German gunfire, and a final pigeon named Cher Ami is released with another message and also falls to the Germans, leaving the American soldiers trapped between opposing forces. Shot through the chest, blind in one eye, and missing a foot, Cher Ami somehow secretly rose and flew again, flying 25 miles in 25 minutes, making his flight back to base with the message of the trapped troops, begging the British to stop the shelling immediately, and saving the lives of 194 American soldiers. Army medics worked to save his life, and after his recovery, he was awarded the French Croix de Guerre medal. He was only 1 year old. On October 18, 1943, air bombings are scheduled to hit the village of Calvi Vecchia in Italy, attacking the German forces occupying it. However, the 169th Infantry Brigade are able to take back the village from the Germans ahead of schedule, but are unable to transmit a radio message fast enough to call off the incoming airstrike. As a last resort, a pigeon named G.I. Joe is sent to deliver a message to the airbase and call off the air raid. G.I. Joe flies 20 miles in 20 minutes, saving the lives of over 100 men. He lived to be 18 years old and was awarded the Dickin Medal on November 4, 1946.
Now he's got the most important chest in Britain. On it is the Dickin Medal, the VC of the feathered world. And for all that, to some folk, he's still just a pigeon.
On June 12, 1944, a pigeon named Patty flies over 50 miles per hour for 5 hours straight, totaling 230 miles back to England with the first news of the Nazi invasion of D-Day, marking the fastest travel time ever seen by a carrier pigeon during the Normandy landings, and is subsequently awarded another Dickin Medal on September 1, 1944. He lived for 11 years, and a memorial was created in Ireland in his honor. Despite radio communication being prevalent in World War I and World War II, message by carrier pigeons remained invaluable, delivering messages back and forth from base, along with German and Russian soldiers often attaching time-delayed cameras to their chests in effort to take aerial photographs of the opposition. Along with gunfire to combat the carriers from both sides, Germans eventually brought handlers of hawks to the battlefield to chase them down. But despite the efforts to combat the carriers, in World War I alone, over 95% of carriers delivered their messages safely. Carrier pigeon use was so prolific and their lives are valued so highly that under the British Defence of the Realm Act established in 1914, anyone interfering with a carrier pigeon was charged with a fine of £100 or 6 months in prison. 32 pigeons were awarded the Dickens Medal in World War II. More than 100,000 pigeons were used in World War I, and more than 250,000 pigeons were used in World War II. A training of a pigeon and its method of navigation has mostly to do with where it was raised. If a pigeon was raised in a certain loft where they spend several weeks without leaving, traveling in increments further and further away from that loft eventually teaches them how to return to that loft from potentially hundreds of miles away, using sunlight direction, magnetic fields, sound, and other methods that are still being researched. All carrier pigeons deployed were done so in ways ranging from subjectively humane and discreet to inhumane and rushed, from being let loose from cages handed out of armored vehicles, set free from underneath parked cars, or thrown out of moving vehicles. In early 1940, Project Pigeon, later titled Project Orcon, was created by American psychologist B.F. Skinner.
And I will try to pick out some particular pattern of behavior and make it a more frequent part of the repertoire of the bird.
Relying on rewards to make them behave in consistent ways, taking advantage of their homing abilities and eyesight. The most common use of this research, generally speaking, is placing a pigeon inside a capsule and giving it a reward when it sees a target and pecks a specific point. B.F. Skinner's main effort was to make guided bombs by placing these trained pigeons inside them, windows with conductive film, and each pigeon adorned with the conductive material around the beak. This method almost had a 100% success rate, but after the DoD determined to pursue nuclear weapons instead, as well as electronic guidance being a proven method, the project was finally shelved in 1953. Since then, pigeons have aided the U.S. Coast Guard throughout the 70s and 80s. A capsule underneath Coast Guard helicopters contained pigeons that would spot shipwrecked crew members with a very high success rate, although this too was also shelved due to costs and general flexibility. In 2019, information was declassified about the CIA's usage of pigeon spies during the Cold War in 1970. Operation Takana, where several pigeons were once again strapped with cameras to take pictures within the Soviet Union, although most other specific details about Operation Takana are still classified. Carrier pigeons are still used to this day, albeit less commonly known to deliver messages of battle tactics, and more often bred for racing. But many carrier pigeons have been spotted and caught delivering narcotics across borders, with sightings reported in 2009 to 2015 of pigeons delivering cell phones, SIM cards, USB cords, various drugs, or other contrabands into the prisons of Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Listeners in Costa Rica found a unique use for a carrier pigeon. They trained it to help smuggle in drugs. When prison guards found the bird, it was wearing a fanny pack that was filled with marijuana and cocaine. It's not clear just how long they may have been using the bird for this purpose. The bird's been moved to an animal shelter. The staff there says it cannot be released into the wild because it's now used to getting food from people in exchange for favors.
Pigeons are one of the most abundant, widespread species on the planet, being found in every single continent except for Antarctica. And the common breed used as carriers are known as racing homing pigeons, with records of them carrying messages to and from dating back to 1350 BC in ancient Egypt, and the domestication of pigeons being found in Mesopotamian tablets over 5,000 years ago. Our long history with pigeons have led us to understand their habits in great detail. They mate for life and are monogamous. Both parents care for their offspring and are intelligent and often peaceful birds. And the mirrored behaviors and partnerships between humans and pigeons have brought them high esteem throughout history, with many cultures looking to doves and pigeons in many different religious or metaphorical ways. Doves and pigeons feature prominently in Christianity as a symbol of the Holy Spirit, peace and reconciliation, as well as the individual soul. In China, the pigeon represents longevity and fidelity, symbolizes power and status among the elderly, along with the connection between earth and heaven, and a symbol for auspiciousness and beauty. Their meat was believed to cure many diseases such as the plague, and their droppings made use for potent fertilization of crops. In the early 1600s, the introduction of pigeons to North America for these reasons by way of European settlers led to many pigeons escaping confinement to make their homes within the cities and towns, becoming a part of the local ecosystem and making themselves one of the first invasive species in the Americas. Pigeons are natural scavengers of urban food waste, allowing them to have higher breeding rates in cities due to the vast amounts of shelter and food. With an organ in their throats called a crop, it allows them to feast essentially as much as they like, store some food for later, and create what's called crop milk for their young, instead of needing to feed their young live food. Pigeons can produce new chicks year-round and create offspring every 6 weeks, and this fat and protein-rich diet causes chicks to grow rather quickly. The common pigeon found in most cities today, including New York, are called rock doves, but almost any breed is highly capable of thriving in chaotic environments. Unlike birds who nest on the ground or in trees, pigeons are naturally cliff dwellers, making the tall buildings of big cities mimic their natural environment and feel right at home. At the time of writing, there are up to 400 million pigeons worldwide and an estimated 9 million pigeons in New York City alone. A single pigeon can leave behind 11 kilograms of acidic droppings per year, which equates to around $1.1 billion of structural damage annually. The rat with wings term was coined by a New York City Parks Commissioner in the newspaper, due to 2 deaths in 1963 being caused by pigeons, along with the rampant growth of population. Our dealings and ongoing partnership with pigeons has been one based over millennia, and there's no doubt their rise in number is somewhat of our own doing. But our partnership throughout history, their aid in our early ecosystem, domestication, symbolism, and trust with pigeons in the past shouldn't be forgotten, despite the real ecological impact it has on us or our perception of our surroundings. In 2024, a giant statue of a pigeon was erected in Manhattan, hopefully in efforts of showcasing the true appreciation, history, underlying friendship, and acceptance of a bird that, despite all slander and exploitation, humbly calls itself our friendly neighbor.
Well, maybe the latest sculpture that represents what many people think when they think of New York City, the colossal, hyper-realistic 16-foot tall sculpture of a pigeon named Dinosaur will be open to the public tomorrow on the High Line at the 10th Avenue and 30th Street intersection. It was created by an artist from Colombia who now lives and works in Paris. Why the name Dinosaur, you might be asking? Well, pigeons are descendants of dinosaurs. Oh, yes. The sculpture was created to celebrate the bird. It will be on display for a year and a half. Oh. I think that's really cool, and I'm glad we explained the reason for the name. It's not like the pigeon that was named Flamingo or the flamingo that was named Pigeon. What was it again? Or a turkey?
It was not a pigeon. It was an owl.
An owl.